I got to plug in my little.
So we need to conclude tonight's public hearing. By the way, we're reconvening our open meeting, 7:22. As our attorney will explain, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn the public hearing and not close the public hearing. And there's a particular reason why we're asking that. So the proposal will be to adjourn the public hearing until September 8th and continue accepting written comments through September 1st. Could you explain to the board why we're adjourning and not closing?
Sure. There is a pending zoning board application for this project. Right now, the project is not compliant with code, so the board couldn't even act on this project yet. I understand the upcoming zoning board meeting was canceled due to lack of quorum. And I believe last month's meeting was as well. So this planning board really can't act until the zoning board issue gets dealt with. And I understand the board also wants the applicant to respond to some outstanding questions it's gathered and collected throughout the course of these public hearings.
So let's open that up for discussion before asking for a motion. Are there questions or comments the board would like to make?
No, I mean, I would be in support of adjourning. I mean, pending the, the progress of the zoning board.
Okay. Would you be willing to put that in the form of a motion?
I do make a motion.
Okay. So the motion is that we will adjourn the public hearing through September 8th, which is the next regular meeting. And that we will continue to accept written comments through September 1st. Is there a second on that motion?
Can we suggest this?
Yes, we can.
Um,
Let's go ahead and get a second and then we'll discuss.
I would second.
Okay, good. Thank you. Sarah.
one other sort of completing the picture is that once the board formally votes to close the public hearing, we then have to take action within 2 months, right?
62 days.
Yeah, so like a 2 meeting cycle. But we could also take action before that. So by not closing the public hearing until September, we definitely can't vote in September, but we could vote in October. It's not like we have to wait till November. And it sounds like we can't take action in September anyway, for a number of reasons.
And this is a procedural issue that, and I believe also the engineers have expressed that they would be more comfortable with more than 2 months to finalize the engineering studies. But being able to act on this in a timely way is still within the scope of the planning board's expectation. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Linda, could you please call the roll?
Parker. Yes. Black.
Yes.
Woodhull.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Beer.
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes. We're moving on to item 4 in the agenda.
Chairman, just for 1 second.
Yes.
The applicant's attorney, could I just say a few words and one quick question?
I was just getting ready to call on the applicant to speak. Jeff had asked to speak. Do you want to proceed, your attorney? Okay, you're recognized.
Procedural question. First of all, thank you for your time. We as a team have internally reviewed most of the comments so that they still keep coming in. So, we are prepared to start doing a written response. I think, we're kind of looking for some direction from the board as far as which comments they found relevant, which comments they didn't. So we're kind of looking for some direction before we submitted
Right.
that written response, because we do have answers to all those questions. Some of those questions we have already answered, as one of the residents had mentioned, specifically the Brownfield.
Sure.
You guys kind of cover that in the Synchronet deck. We did a whole analysis on that. We can expand on that as far as this round of responses, but
We actually have a response to your query. In this very meeting tonight, we're going to discuss the questions that we want to pose for you. And I suspect that we will have a document for Jeff by the end of the day tomorrow, if depending on our conversation, that outlines the areas of interest that we feel that that residents have raised. So absolutely.
With the question about the engineering comments, or was the question about the public comment?
Public comments.
Right, okay, I just want to make sure we were all on the same page.
Yeah, we're internally working on the responses to public comments, but we're waiting to put them in writing before we hear from you guys. Our engineers are also working with your engineer, going back and forth on the SWIFT, so they're making progress as we go through these public hearings. But once we get your direction, you're ready to put the pen to paper and start putting those responses in.
I just want to make sure we were all talking about the same comment.
You know, Steph?
Yep, just three things. I'll be quick.
Okay.
First of all, we're excited about the engagement and we appreciate that. John has already talked about that. So we will be answering the questions and any other questions that are not in your purview that we deem necessary, we'll answer on our website. Because we do believe that there are questions that deserve answers. Secondly, I just need to know, we are literally one of the highest regulated industries there are. Like, we're regulated by the state, the government, and as you can see, the city. So like, as far as us kind of sweeping things under the rug or sneaking things past people, is really, it's a very insignificant argument. And it's actually a little bit offensive because we work and we get paid for that, but I have to explain that to you. And lastly, you know, Ravon and I come up here and talk about this repeatedly, but I don't think that people really understand the significance that she lived in Bliss Towers and her mother still lives there. So there's no way, as a chairperson, she's gonna allow negative consequences to occur to her parents. And I lived in public housing. I say that because I care about the people. I understand. That's why I do this work. And to disregard that is short-sighted. I do this work. It's very important. I do understand what the people need. I live in the building essentially by working with them every day. So I understand the conditions that we're in.
Yeah.
And I just really wish people take notice.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
So we hope tonight will illuminate a little bit more what you're.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have two bits of board business that I'm aware of. One is, as early as February, Jeff and Ravon and I talked about the board, making a site visit as a board. And in recent weeks, several board members and I have kind of said, maybe this is about the time to do that. So what I'm proposing to the board tonight is that we, if there are more than four of us, more than three of us, we would have to make a call meeting. I did speak to Gene, but we communicated this afternoon and he supports the idea of a board site visit. I've spoken with Jeff about it. He supports the idea. And so what I would like to do is discuss this idea tonight. And that would be, we have to post the meeting in advance. And I think one of the dates that we were looking at is the week of August 24th. I think going as a group is powerful in a couple of ways. First, we get to collaborate and discuss what we're experiencing, what we're seeing. But also I think it demonstrates to the public a level of thoroughness that this board is taking in terms of its approach to this project. So I would entertain a motion that we convene a special meeting on site at HHA's office on sometime the week of August 24th. And then if the motion passes, we can pull out our calendars and pick a date. So such motion,
I'll make that.
Peter, second, Sarah, second.
Falco. Yes. Black.
Yes.
Woodhull.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Beer.
Yes.
Open.
Yes. Would anyone like to amend the motion with an actual suggestion for a date?
People have flexibility during the day or just read that?
Gene said anytime after 1 o'clock. And then we want to check with Jeff also and Ramon.
Come anytime. There every day.
The only day that's not good for me is Wednesday.
I could do during the day if it's Monday or Tuesday.
During the day.
It's really not my work schedule. I can make whatever motion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
maybe anyway, they said the week of the 24th.
Yeah,
And Veronica's narrowing us down to Monday or Tuesday, and I
If you
Jane
want to
after
do-
one.
Yeah, I could do during the afternoon. I could do an evening, but if you wanted during the day, it would only be Monday or Tuesday.
I don't have the fastest with, ports of the Scentsy there. Each of them needs to be amended. So this is,
well, let's do this, let's
Yeah.
let
yeah.
you have time for your antique computer to catch up. And then we'll come back after we deal with the next item. The next item,
Well, it's
is it
the 24th of, the 24th of,
24th,
yeah,
24th, afternoon, 1 o'clock?
yeah, that's fine.
1 o'clock on the 24th, Jim?
Sounds good to me.
All right, so let's plan on, is convening in, where should we meet?
41 website?
I mean, come to your office or?
You can come, yeah, let's start my office.
Okay, so, and that means the public might come, it's an open meeting, so. All right, thank you all. This is gonna be great. And just in terms of our program, there's nothing organized, I don't think, but I do think, in addition to touring the building itself, the list, I think walking the site and kind of trying to understand the placement of the structures and so forth, I think that would be very helpful for us as well.
I will handle it.
Thank you. We'll talk again before then. The next item is the comment review process. We're in the midst of a public hearing. We've already had, well, as of mid-afternoon today, we'd already had 103 letters and 18 public comments. We've now had another 15 or 20, and the letters just keep coming in. And I want to take a moment and thank Linda, who has been, not only has she got blisters on her singed finger, but also has responded to numerous FOIL requests. It's been a busy 5 or 6 weeks, so thank you, Linda. You've been a great colleague and supporter. So we've all experienced engagement in government, and it has varying degrees of satisfaction, and usually pretty low degrees of satisfaction. And there's probably no worse feeling, at least I know, that if you make a public comment and you're really trying to be persuasive, but you feel like that fell on deaf ears, that you weren't heard. You saw no evidence that what you said showed up in the public record. So we're addressing that by taking I think, a more proactive approach to how we engage the public. So, and this is going to be a 2-phase project because we're only partially the way through the public comment period. So we haven't heard all the comments yet. So what we've done as a group over the last few weeks is begin to classify the public comments into different categories. So rather than responding to every individual, it's like there's a whole group of public comments that kind of fit into this category, another group that kind of fit into this category. And so initially, at least, we're building our process around that kind of structure. So we identify for example, one category is scale, density, and relationship to surrounding neighborhood. That's a common set of comments. So then we will develop some questions that will relate to that particular category. Another is construction and demolition, site conditions, phasing, resident relocation, and project completion. So these are broad, but they act as buckets, if you will, for a variety of public comments that came forward. So we're not going to respond to every public comment because there are public comments that, while important and valuable, they don't fall into our remit, our charge. For example, the overall cost of the project. There have been comments about that, but that's not a matter that the planning board has an opinion about legally. State and federal housing policy, regional countywide distribution of affordable housing, local taxation and public funding priorities, broader social and economic policy questions, whether or not the applicant has sufficient funding, issues related to consolidated affordable housing versus distributed affordable housing. That's a big issue. But none of these are in our scope of responsibilities or authority. So So you won't see those identified. Now, they go into the public record, those comments all still go into the public record for for the permanent record for this process. So that's kind of where we're starting. The other thing I would say before I open it up for discussion is that we've kind of are forcing this process in a fairly tight timeframe because we want to keep this project moving forward. So between the last meeting, which was July the 21st, and Sunday morning, we created this document, circulated it to the board for their review. And tonight, we're actually going to be doing some wordsmithing. So stand by for maybe a little bit of boredom. But I think in the interest of keeping the process moving forward, we want to refine this document and get it into HHA's hands sooner so they can begin responding. How would we like to engage in this conversation? How would we want to start it out? Do we want to kind of frame what we're going to try to do tonight first? Sarah, I look at your, I can see your brain just being a teacher over there.
Well, a number of, I'm not sure if other board members responded directly to Ron. Three of us responded to the sort of all team circle, with general reflections on like, what were the themes that we're seeing coming out of the public comment. And Ron, I think you've done a great job of, let's read them out again. The themes. Number one was like, everyone agrees that there's a need for replacement housing for Bliss, it's another question. The scale and density, the relationship surrounding neighborhood, construction and demolition plans, neighborhood impacts, the site conditions, and I think this section is, section 4 is maybe not well labeled, but it seems to be more about like the contamination concern, the demolition management plans versus like the trucks, the staging. 3 and 4 are kind of related. Phasing, resident relocation, right? Like what's the, a question about asking the applicant to be like, what's the sequence and timing of you're going to tear down this building and then or you're going to build a new building and people will move in. The parking, transportation matters, themes around municipal services and municipal infrastructure like sewer, water, the ground floor streetscape landscaping impact, the overall like neighborhood character, and then you enumerated the things that are already said beyond the scope of the planning board. So I feel like you did a really strong job of articulating what the core themes were. Nathan and I both responded with some edits with regard to, like today I read 103 public comments and I read the whole project file except the 1,000-page SWIP. And as a new planning board member, still trying to get clear on what is and isn't within our purview, but specifically with a number of portions of the theme that are related, there's several categories of themes here that are largely addressed in the May 13th letter we got from the applicant. For example, when we asked the applicant, if we want to ask the applicant again, what are the design frameworks that guide your decision around massing or community integration? But we have mostly posed that question already and gotten a response, which we may or may not find adequate. But I was worried in some of the design consideration questions that the questions we were asking were a bit too vague.
Yeah.
Because we were asking, the overall site design objectives for integrating the redevelopment with the surrounding neighborhood. When a lot of people were making those comments, were concerned that there wasn't retail on the ground floor or that there weren't enough egresses. So if our question is, why aren't there more egresses? Can there be more egresses? Why isn't there why did retail fall out? Can there be more retail? I feel like we could ask more specific questions. It also then does get me into I remain confused about the purview of the planning board in terms of directing an applicant with their own choices.
I guess like there's like a sort of follow-up question there is like, are we trying to summarize the questions that the public has asked for the applicant to then answer? Or are we trying to use the wisdom of the community that they brought to us to ask our own questions that we feel are unanswered in the project record so far? Because I think there are a set of things in the draft that you put together that I think we all agree have not yet been answered by the applicant. I think particularly around construction, like the construction plan and neighborhood impacts around construction. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's like been exhaustively described by the applicant already around. I mean, for example, the parking and traffic study like already exists. It sort of feels very good to ask the applicant again for a thing they've already.
Or like the phasing and sequence, if the public is confused
Yeah.
that, but there will be built a building. The HHA is federally mandated to safely rehouse every single person that's currently housed into the new building before they can tear down. So the sequence to me is extremely clear, and I don't know what's unclear.
And I think that there's like a shared, we all as a community should communicate really well. I think that's like, I think a shared interest between all of us.
Right.
On the board and also the applicant. We have a shared interest in communicating to the whole community what has already been answered. And so I think that the other thing Sarah and I were just chatting before this, but you can imagine us taking this document and instead of having it could be that we just have some questions and they refer back to us, and that would be acceptable if we signal that. I guess I just worry about creating an undue burden on the applicant when they've already answered the questions. It feels like we might be continuing to ask them the same questions that we've already asked.
And just to be clear, that this first document was a draft.
Yeah.
So let me sort of explain my rationale, and including is that I wanted to make a document that was representative of the comments from the community. And if there are if within the community, they don't know about certain things that have been answered,
Yep.
then that sort of teases that out. And then we can say, okay, that, you'll find the answer to that in our minutes of our July 15th meeting or whatever. I mean, it gives us an opportunity to use this as an educational process for the community as well as informing our thinking. And the other framework I had was the community speaks to the board, and then we bring those questions and we own those questions ourselves. They get morphed into our questions because we've been influenced by the community to say these are good questions that we should be asking. So those are just two of my framing thoughts as far as creating the document. So what if we went down section by section and just analyzed whether or not, does that section feel complete? How would I change that? Would that be a useful process? And everybody has a hard copy of that thing. And by the way, I think we've got three really good advisors with us, Linda and Rich and Andrew. And I would invite you to bring your perspective to this conversation as well, to help us achieve what we're trying to achieve. And also keeping us on the right side of what's our authority and where we are with regard to engineering, and just drawing on your history of and experience is a great value to us as well, Linda. So some of this was, the purpose was was trying to create some framework for this, because I also think this is essentially a process that can be used in future projects as well. And so if we kind of capture the why are we doing this and what's the philosophy behind it, that's why I kind of included some of the other. And before we begin, one more thing. So we have approximately 3 more weeks of public comment, including what we heard tonight. So at the end of the public hearing and before our September 8th meeting, I think that we need to revisit public comments that have occurred from Sunday morning at 9 a.m. forward, and see if there are any new issues that we need to include as a supplement to what we're doing tonight. Okay. Would you like, why don't you lead the second section, Sarah? You want to take us through?
Do we want to just focus on the request for additional written information, or do you want to review, I think your summary work is great in terms of problems. one could get more technical, but we shouldn't, in terms of counts with the portions of comments, you express certain kinds of things, but I think you're right, like, you say the public comments do not reflect a single point of view, but the question is, the design process used to establish the project's heights, massing, setbacks.
So where are you? I'm sorry. Show us where you are.
I'm looking at section 2.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that as we go forward, we can talk about the narrative for each theme, just for the public. For each theme, Ron's done a summary of the comments, and then there's a specific sort of subsection, request for additional written information.
Okay.
So this one was one where I think Nathan agrees that that there's something, I have some sort of problem with sort of 4 different places in this document where we're asking the applicant to basically respond to the same set of questions we asked them to respond to in May.
Okay.
And so maybe they could issue a more holistic restatement of the design framework, but this question just asks additional written information about the design process. They gave us a whole presentation about the design process.
And I think from my perspective, I would be happy if the applicant just referred us back to,
Just said, we already wrote about
yes,
this. See letter,
see letter for May 13th.
unless there's something that we found unsatisfactory about the May 13th letter and the
Or,
design.
yeah, or a specific, I feel like it would be helpful if I were the applicant to, I don't want to speak for you all, but if there's a specific question that was not handled already, rather than a more generic, tell us about the design process, you know what I mean? Like if there's like, oh, this one thing was not covered.
Yeah.
What was it that we were looking for?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the height is unknown, is a measurement that we don't know. I know that people have lots of questions about the degree to which it interacts with the neighborhood. And so knowing sort of factually what the actual dimensions of the building are a way of completing the record to give people a sense of understanding of what is its relationship with the neighborhood. How is it different than buildings in the neighborhood? What are the precedents that the designers have used to define the scale? I think those are relevant to the conversation as to appropriateness, which I know we heard people talk about tonight.
We don't know the height.
I'm going to check.
It's been described as being 4 stories. I believe that we don't have actual height in feet. And because of the change in topography of the site, you end up having variations in the,
Yeah, depends where you're pushing from.
But
Depends where you're pushing from.
yeah,
so the concern in item 2 is that you feel that they may have already responded to that. There may be some questions within that we still might have. So how do we reach that point? How do we get to that point where we can be finite and somewhat a little more microscopic?
Even what we've just said about like, how does the building interact? Well, what do we want to, what's like important for us to hear? It sits across the street from other buildings. There's crosswalks between, we know about view sheds, we know about like, we can think about shadows falling, but I'm not sure what actually we're looking for when we're asking how these buildings interact with neighboring buildings, any more than say, has Providence Hall interact with neighboring buildings or.
I mean, the height is a specific measurement of scale in the relationship between one building and another building. There's uncertainty as to whether we have that information. So that's one point that people continually refer to when they wonder, what is this development? And it's a piece of information that will provide more clarity to people. So it feels like it's a form of just completing the record.
Yeah, that was like a narrow, specific, like, good.
I think I got a matrix in my inbox from the engineers that has that data now. But I don't think it's been entered into any official record. Yes? It hadn't. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't find the final building elevation that we have saved in our file shot.
I know, but forgive me if I sound a bit, because I'm a lay person and this particular matter, but I know.
We are all lay persons.
Yeah, but during the public comment period, I know there was the concern about the delay with the zoning, so As far as the dimensions of the proposed building, how is that, impacted by the zoning, the action of the zoning within Hudson? And is there what's the relationship and how would that impact the project moving forward? Just a general query on it.
You have a response?
Sure, so are you asking if there's a zoning change? I don't think there is.
As far as the dimensions of the building, what it was mentioned, we don't know the exact height.
Zoning is for the two, townhouses.
Oh, it's on.
The main building is in a zone that doesn't have a height restriction.
Okay, so height and zoning, those are not necessarily financial, okay.
Yeah, and if the applicant wants to interject at any point, simplify things.
Yeah, John, if you or Jeff have content that we're dancing around, that'd be helpful.
Looking through my files, so you can see it renderings, showing the proposed building and as far as how it looks with the rest of the community. We did submit elevations, but the ones I have, you're correct, they don't have the heights on them, but I think there were other areas in the application where we stated the heights, but they should be on there. So, that's something we can address. That way it's in one package.
So does it come down to that? We're just asking about dimensions on item 2? Or,
This is just kind of one section. I've heard other concerns about like Peter wrote a great thing about the length of wall, like
Yeah.
how many doors. Some people desire that this project where ground floor levels would have their own entrances or something. I don't think the planning board can mandate that sort of thing, but do we have questions about, I don't know, why can there be more doors?
Yes. Yeah, I think that some of that information is already there, but understanding the sort of just confirming, how many doors per entry, how many units per lobby. It seems to me that, this building has all of the units share one lobby, which seems to be a design choice that actually replicates the design of Bliss Towers. And it operates at an institutional scale, which I find problematic. So getting more information about that would be helpful. Just confirming that data and those measurements would be helpful.
So as an action point, maybe the thing to do is to collaborate on sort of the questions that you have that and get those into writing for here so that the applicant can like.
I contribute.
Yeah. I know, but I think, is it that this draft doesn't have Peter's email in it? Peter did send an email with. But that's not.
Yeah, I feel like it shaped the themes, but a lot of the specific questions.
It's on the section 8. That's the only reason why we.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was.
No apology necessary.
Maybe. Sorry if I'm being handed here. I feel like things that seem like really clear yeses, like there isn't a lot of the public record, is the construction management plan. Like people were very concerned about vibration, noise. I feel like dust control and things like that are part of this width.
Yeah.
But staging, traffic impacts, and even the time, like, I don't know, when I was looking at all the seeker submissions, everything said a 1 to 2 year construction timeline. And then a lot of public comments were like, this is gonna be going on for a decade. So it would be helpful to disambiguate that from, that's an opportunity for the applicant to.
so,
That's the thing.
yeah, I think it might be, that's another section. So, what I'd like to do is dispense with each section and then move through it in an orderly way. So,
Can I make what is the difficulty in giving a fully representative set of questions to the applicant and having them answer the questions? And if they've already answered them, or they feel as if they've already answered them, they indicate that they've already answered them. We just had evidence of the fact that they thought they had given us information that they did not. So this gives them a chance to actually complete the record, and we don't have to do this sort of public collaboration, sort of editing. Does that feel like a valid proposal?
so make that clearer for me. You're suggesting we just give them this?
Yeah, I feel like what you did is really represent a sort of a comprehensive review of the concerns that the public brought into the community conversation about the project. Yes, there's duplication because there's going to be duplication. It's a massive project. People have various levels of awareness, various abilities to access the meetings, various levels of understanding.
Yeah.
And so the thoroughness is a bonus to me. I don't feel like we're being onerous by asking the application to be thorough in their representation of the project.
Well, and you know, as Jeff et al. Gets into this, and if they're looking at it and go, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking for here.
Yep.
Then we're talking to each other, so we can move through this in a collaborative way. I mean, it certainly simplifies our task tonight if we decided to. And again, what I would propose is that if we did that, I would convert this into a letter sent on behalf of the board. And it would get posted, I suppose, because it becomes a public document. And then at the end of this process, I think we would publish our findings for the public to see. I mean, here are the questions the public asked, here are the answers that we have from the applicant. And then we close the loop with the public. We've had our conversation with the public, we had a start, a middle, and a finish. And so I'm going to test the interest of the board and see if there's a motion of any kind floating around in anybody's mind.
So can I do one objection, which is that there are like a handful of items in here where we're asking the applicant to provide commentary on things that are not part of our purview. So the thing that like snuck in, so like construction techniques and like the building code and if they're part of compliance with it is not, not a thing that we as a board, as I understand it, can ask. My personal view is that we should be really focused on like collecting information and being focused on what conditions for approval, what information we need to get to approval.
Yeah.
But that's my personal view.
Yeah.
Because
Just experienced a moment when we thought there was information in the record and it's not. Right? So
Just to confirm, sorry, the heights are in the record to the bulk table. What I said before is they're not on the elevations. So one of the buildings is 60 feet, the other one is 50 feet, that's on the bulk table. And we did provide elevations, but you are correct, they don't have heights on the elevation. So that's something I said before, is we'll synthesize that information so you'll have it all in one.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, just like to that degree, because of the complexity, the being so particular about new information and old information feels like the broader.
And there's one other concern I have, which is some of the questions in here are just so vague. They're so general in nature that I wouldn't know how, if I were the applicant, how I would even go about satisfying them.
And as the board, like what gets us closer to discernment if we're sort of repeating things that we already have heard the applicant say? I mean, I think the applicant has to like read the room with the public comments and understand what's at stake in some of the questions that are being asked, but you pointed out some good ones here. I mean, I'm not opposed to shipping this document as is. Yeah. Could imagine more satisfying dialogue based on, I don't know, the questions that are actually at the root here.
Well, this is one wave, right? We have another wave of public comments that come in, another opportunity to refine. I mean, in terms of if we were to talk about sort of coarseness or resolution of questions, this is the first wave of sort of general inquiry that's representative of public comments.
As an example, on section 6, the proposed question was the proposed function of State Street in complete development, including pedestrian, vehicular, and emergency access. I'm not sure if it's asking about during phase 1, after phase 2, when it's potentially pedestrian. It's like, I don't know what. Yeah.
Can I say something here? I think what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling personally is listening to a lot of like deep emotions.
Yeah.
and listening that well to so many different people speak, not that it takes something out of you, but it makes you tired, right? And like, this is a heavy document, and it's 8 o'clock. And I think at this point, it seems like we kind of maybe just want to get through it, and then we also have, but no, we need to go through it more thoroughly. And I can tell you right now, that I don't have it in me to go through this thoroughly. Not right now. So I don't know, maybe if this is something, I don't know, it would probably be too far. I mean, if we could kind of maybe incorporate this into the 24th thing we're doing, I don't know if that's too far away to make it not, and plus we heard a lot more things today that maybe could help us maybe sharpen this a little bit,
Maybe I could offer some general guidance here, since this is
Some ideas.
Yeah.
that the board is discussing. It should probably be posted on the planning board site. And then the applicant can at least have a look at what this is we're discussing, with the knowledge that this will be refined further. So they can at least get going on it, rather than waiting for us to say, here's exactly what we're asking for. Just that, like we were talking about, the transfer of information benefits everyone here. I don't think holding off really serves any purpose.
And I think I would be very happy to proceed with this document if we had included a preamble that said something like, you can just,
Respond holistically across themes.
yeah,
Like,
refer back to previous submission.
perfect, yeah.
Yeah, and like, you can answer some of these questions with, as answered already in waiver submission. Yeah, that satisfies.
We have a question from
Yeah.
the applicant.
For the record, John Mattio from Malco. And thank you all for this discussion. This is great. For our purposes, we'd rather have as many questions as you have. Okay, if they've been asked before, that's fine. Okay, we can either simply refer to the previous answer or add to that answer. Okay, so, and I appreciate council's comments. We're ready to get going. So whatever you can send us, we can start working on. And let's be honest, once you get those responses, there are going to be more questions. Okay, so, we're prepared to take whatever incoming questions you have, and we can sort of help direct where we think there are certain things that are clearly in the purview of the planning board. We'll comment on that, and where things are not, we may still respond, and we'll put that on the website. And then your board will make a determination as to what you should evaluate or not.
So here's the step-by-step that maybe we could follow. We vote tonight to go ahead and submit this to them in a revised form tomorrow. I'll turn it into a letter and get it over to you. The public comments stop on September 1st or the 31st. We reevaluate any comments from yesterday through that date, see if there are any new broad content that needs to be added to this. We invite the applicant to submit a written response by the end of the month. And then a verbal kind of review at our September 8th meeting, where it gives us an opportunity to do discussions with them based on their answers. Is that a workable timeframe for everybody?
Yes.
And again, this is to help us complete the record. This is so, and then my guess is, just based on what we know, when do we think we're gonna have a zoning board resolution? Do we have any idea at all?
I can't speak for the zoning board. I don't know when their next meeting is scheduled for. I know they're in the process of essentially scheduling a special meeting for this.
Do you have any insight on their?
Just received the email at 6 o'clock tonight that the meeting was canceled.
Yeah.
So we'll have to follow up. I'm sure to get a special meeting. And obviously it's for September 8th.
Okay,
That's what it's, yeah, it's supposed to be the 19th, August. There's some August meetings canceled.
so if that time frame is suitable, then I'm gonna return to the idea that I thought you were raising your hand. The idea that we go ahead and move to submit this to the applicant. If between now and let's say the end of business tomorrow, you just have some burning issues that you really want to, you want to refine a question or clarify a question, then I would, let's just say, if you could get to me by the end of the day tomorrow, I'll just use my judgment if it's all right. And then we'll get it in your hands.
Okay,
Can we live with that?
I stand down.
Yeah,
All right.
as long as we pre-include in that list some of the construction management stuff at the end of my doc.
One thing I can throw out there is to maybe get, if you're gonna give it to them in pieces, because it's certainly not complete yet. So if you're gonna give it to them, make sure it's clear that it's a draft. But if everybody agrees to the buckets, so to speak here, that gives them a lot of area to really start responding. And if you're unhappy with some of the detailed questions, then maybe pull some of those back, delay that, rejigger how you want to say something very specific. But if they have these different themes, they heard all the comments as well too. They could really start to fill in, provide you back a summary. And it is customary for some of this to just get regurgitated because you heard it as a board, but the public didn't hear it. So when they submit something back, it becomes a nice working document that the public can read as well.
Yeah.
So even if they refer back or say some of the same stuff that you've heard before, at least it's a nice concise document for the public to hear.
So the chair would entertain a motion to approve circulating this document to the applicant as a first step in engaging them around public comments. Thank you, Sarah.
Second.
Thank you, Peter.
Nathan, did you let me?
Yeah.
Conrad,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Woodhull,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Vogel.
No.
I got tomato.
Okay, thank you. Then Jeff, I'll be in contact tomorrow about this.
So good, thank you.
Thank you all.
Chairman Bowman.
Thank you, Executive Director Jeff. We have 3 more items of business. 604 Washington Street. Is there anybody here from 604 Washington Street?
Yes, sorry.
Oh, good, thank you.
It's okay, we're gonna set up an easel here.
Sure.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric with Time Bond Engineering. With my colleague Rob Sasser here to discuss 604 Washington Street parking lot. This proposed parking lot will support the Pocketbook Hudson project. Thank you very much. And I want to start off by just, yeah, and I'm going to pass out a hard copy to each of you, just showing this application. Well, sometimes us engineers got caught in the details. Sometimes we need to take a step back and show everybody where we are, provide some context to the site. I just have a few very basic aerial images. Kind of showing the parking lot in its relation to Pocketbook section. Maybe the easiest thing for me to do is me.
And if I could I just ask a clarifying question before we get into it? This was part of a previously approved site plan before this board, right? This parking lot? Yes. The parking lot was previously larger than what is currently proposed, and this is a reduction in that previously approved park. That's correct. That's correct. Okay. So the board's looking at less than what was already approved. Right? Yes. It's just because due to some city function where.
Can I clarify? That's not actually correct. The planning board application that was approved for Pocketbook Factory. Sorry, this is Sean Rowland. I'm one of the managing partners of Pocketbook.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
Did not. Yeah, it did not include a parking lot. It included a condition that we had to either have a parking lot or provide for 40 parking spaces through a permit in municipal lots. So there was no parking lot as part of the original site plan. So this is a new application. It is not an amendment to our existing site plan.
It's pursuant to that condition on the site plan, right, John?
Yes, but we've been meeting that condition by other means currently, so it's not like it is not an amendment. We're not applying it with this as an amendment. Does that make sense?
Last thing you said?
So they're not applying for an amendment. They're classifying this as a new site plan application for just parking lot.
Could you speak to the intention? Like, what, if you have an alternate, currently, I know that there's neighbor complaints, but beyond that, is there a motivation from your side?
It's a separate, like, there's two ways to meet the condition, right? So like, the intention with having it be a separate application is one, it's a separate company that it is not the property that owns Pocketbook Factory is different than this company that is leasing this land from the city. The purpose is to provide parking for Pocketbook Hudson, but the way we thought it was the most efficient to do that is by applying, rather than, amending our current site plan, which has gone through, went through over a year of review. It's just to do a very simple new plan for what we're doing in this parking lot.
Excuse me, this is Margaret Morris. Can you hear me?
Hi, Margaret.
Yes, Council President. I want to agree with what Sean has just said. The agreement was that they either had to have 40 permits or that they had to allocate parking. So what you have in front of you, I believe, Sean, I don't know if it's 34 or 36 spaces in that lot. I think it might be 30,
yeah.
it's 34, right. But the initial agreement, and initially when this started, the Pocketbook purchased 40 permits in a city lot. And now, after some negotiations with the fire department and DPW, etc., we identified as a city 34 spaces that the Pocketbook could use at a cost in the area behind the fire station. So that's what this is about. I just want to clarify that.
So it's the same place, it's just a new project to sort of formalize this development of this parking lot under.
An off-site parking project.
The current use of this and ownership of this land is what? It's the city and it's a formal fire department parking lot.
Correct.
Right.
The current use is just a parking lot storage yard, it's owned by the city of Hudson. This portion of the site is leased to PBF Tenant LLC, Sean Rollins, to supply the main parking lot.
And it's just the half, it's just the 34 to meet the conditions of the that we just mentioned.
Exactly. This parking lot provides 34 total parking spaces. The whole lot is 2.4 acres. The actual limits of disturbance is only about 0.4 acres. So just to.
And it's a sidewalk, right?
Yeah, yep, that's one of the many improvements. As part of bringing this parking lot to compliance, we're providing 2 ADA parking spaces. We're providing 6 electrical vehicle charging stations, one of which will also be ADA, so there's for the 3 ADA parking spaces. And those are connected to the new sidewalk via a pedestrian friendly, ADA accessible ramp. So those,
So indicated in red.
So, yep, so the red dotted line and arrows indicates the path of travel the pedestrian need to take from the parking lot to the Pocketbook Hudson facility, and that's less than 300 feet. Now that we kind of know where we are in the world, we're right across the street from the firehouse on Washington Street, 6th Street here. So we have all these on the portal, but we just thought we'd bring the hard copy of the site plan here. I can kind of move it around. You all can't see it, but I'll just go over the list of improvements to bring this parking lot up to compliance. Like I mentioned, we have 2 ADA parking spaces and 6 electrical vehicle charging spaces. We have Tesla level 2 destination chargers. We have an ADA pedestrian connectivity to the existing sidewalk. And we're also proposing an asphalt driveway to lead to this primarily gravel parking lot. In addition, we are providing six parking lot lights. That'll be 16 feet high. We have an illumination plan, but the goal is to illuminate this very dark parking lot while also trying to make sure that the lids of the lights stay within our property. So we made sure we worked with the lighting consultant that was their mission, to keep everything in the parking lot, but still provide a nice illuminated, safe parking lot. Going further, to power both the parking lot lights and the Tesla chargers, we're proposing a 200 amp connection and service panel off of an existing pole right here. Similar to how the recently built parking lot is also serviced, to be off the same pole. Similarly to this parking lot, to provide screening for visual buffering on the southern end, we're proposing a row of evergreens, most likely green giant arborvitaes, to match what was previously planted on this side, right above the property line. So it'll be symmetrical to match what we have over here. They're planted at a spacing that will make sure that when they're first planted, it'll create a visual block, but also when they're fully grown, it'll give them spaces. It will not inhibit the actual parking spaces. Each parking space is fashioned with a wheel stop, and as we look towards the right or east side of the plan, we have a steep drop, and so we are doing two things. Parking lots, to meet actual requirements, need to be within 4% slope, and so we're just ever so slightly raising this eastern end, and we are going to taper out at a 2-to-1, provide erosion control and seed stabilization. We're also adding a timber guardrail at the end of the parking lot, so if any car drives over a little bit too fast, because there's no material change, there's a safety measure in place there. As far as site improvements go, that's mainly what we're looking at. During construction, we're trying to be very cognizant of erosion and sedimentation control. For that, we are specifying silt fenced on the low end of the site, and also there's 2 existing stormwater inlets which we'll be blocking with enough protection. Speaking of stormwater, because today it's an existing gravel parking lot and we are replacing the gravel in kind, we will not need to be replacing or adding any stormwater measures. The drainage patterns will be the same. The hydrology of the site is to remain the same.
You are adding the ADA spaces, right?
Yes, good. Thank you for the clarification. The ADA spaces and the striped parking areas, to access them, will also be paved with asphalt. And so there's a completely paved sidewalk and asphalt path from the ADA spaces all the way to the facility.
Is this private parking or public? How does that work? Like, it feels like you're carving out like half of a. You're carving that space out. So I guess just my first question, is it private? How do people know how to use it or who it's for?
It's private. There will be signage around to deter other people from parking in the actual lot, and it will be only for pocketbook Hudson tenants.
And what's that boundary on the, how does it divide itself from the rest of the parking lot? What's the overlay circles?
Right. So on the southern end, these circles represent the evergreen trees that are going to be planted. Because there is no material change between this parking lot and the existing larger parking lot, and also for the visual buffer, we added the evergreens at the southern ends. What this area down here, there's probably about 7 spaces that are today used for the fire station parking, but the rest of the site today has been used to stockpile snow in the winter for snow removal. And so it'll continue to act that way. There's entrances they can access from Railroad Avenue. And so the trees also kind of add like a visual barrier for the trucks dumping snow. It just keeps a good healthy separation between the 2 activities.
Small question, are those going to be planted in ground or containerized? Because that seems like a tough growing environment.
Right. They'll not be planted in gravel, I can guarantee that. We have a detail in our construction documents, and there'll be a 5-foot trench replaced with suitable soil amenities that we wouldn't expect. I mean, you can already see on the other side of the property where they planted those existing arborvitaes with fewer dying, and so we're making sure to learn our lessons from that.
So this is a pretty straightforward project.
Yes.
I think it would be great if our engineer and our attorney could kind of take us through what our requirements are for this. I'd start off by saying, it strikes me that I would recommend that we waive a public hearing for this project. I don't know if if anybody has a different point of view, but that would seem to be a step that we could take out of the process.
And just to clarify, your code allows you to hold a public hearing on site plan applications in your discretion based upon the board's thought on the potential level of public interest or any adverse impacts. So it's not like a mandatory.
I just have one
hearing.
And Margaret, if you're still on the line, is the fire department, they're totally happy with this plan, and I assume that this is a lease the city is doing, so that you're all happy from all city departments' perspective?
Can you repeat the question?
Since this is a lease that the city is doing, I assume you've checked with the fire
So,
department, and they're totally happy?
so,
Yeah.
yes, so when Pocketbook was first in place, and Sean, please correct me if I go wrong here. There was an initial lease on the construction, and then the city agreed to, I believe it's a 5-year lease, Sean, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes, a 5-year lease for the space. And this was done in consultation with DPW and with the fire department, where we evaluated the DPW's need for space for snow issues, fire department needs, and so forth. And so this is a 5-year lease for the space. So it is, to the question that was raised before, is this private property? This is city property that the city has agreed to lease to Pocketbook to provide 34 parking spaces that they have agreed to landscape and manage. Sean, is that correct?
Yes, I think that's a great summary. Agreed.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Margaret.
Thank you.
I mean, given it's a continuation and improvement of an ongoing use and part of like a concession from the original concern about the Pocketbook's impact on parking, I don't see why we would need a public comment.
Yeah. And if we have public comments, the neighbors would probably say, hurry, I want my parking spot back in front of my house. So, what's our step-by-step on this?
Well, you need to classify it, I believe, as a type 2 action under seeker, since it's an existing gravel and gravel parking lot, you're replacing it in kind, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, so
I thought this was gonna be an unlisted action, it doesn't really fall into either one of them.
if you prefer that, but my read on this would be that it would be type 2. I'll prefer to be covered under the original.
But if they're
Well-
mandated, that,
Well, now they're saying this is not part of that.
right, yeah, I guess they're doing it as a standalone now.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, this could be classified as type 2 action exempt from review. And I'll just read the section. Maintenance or repair involving no substantial changes in the existing structure or facility. So here we have existing gravel driveway or parking lot, excuse me, and they're replacing it in kind.
Yeah.
And
Formalizing.
improvement.
And adding the ADU.
Okay,
So that's my throwing it out there. So if the board was so inclined, it could classify this action as type 2 exempt from further review.
does the applicant have any response to that?
That's how we want to go forward, yeah, we will type 2.
So, we would need to take action on that then at this point.
Yes,
Okay, so,
action to classify as type 2 exempt from further review.
okay, is there a motion for that classification?
Sure.
Sarah, okay, second,
Yes, I will second that.
all right, Linda?
Confer, yes, yes, Rivera,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Vogel.
Yeah. Then what?
I think we would pass this to the engineer, make sure there's no outstanding engineering comments, and if there were, if they would be properly included in any, as a condition of potential approval.
I think we can go through a couple of those tonight. Actually, your first exhibit answered a lot of our questions already, because that's what we were looking for. Just looking at this view that we see right here, it doesn't tell you a whole lot, but now seeing the whole path and where it goes to, super helpful, so I'd like to see that be part of the set. We had some comments on the lighting. On your lighting exhibit, it showed, that there was some overflow of lighting that was going to the property to the north and west. And I just wanted to make the board aware of that, but then we could discuss, I thought that we could discuss, just what is happening on that site. I know there's some trees and then an immediate parking lot. And I'm not, fill me in, I'm not exactly sure what, happens on that site.
Yeah, and so the two adjacent properties are zoned the same. They're both R1 GCT, and they both have similar purposes. On the north side, this is a new parking lot with a similar lighting plan and buffers. On the southern side, again, this is just a gravel parking lot. So we're not necessarily, this isn't light infiltrating into a residential area.
Okay.
And again, our primary focus is safety, and you can, I think sometimes photometric plans are a little misleading because we have these different radiuses of illumination. What this is really representing is that the focus of the lights are within our property, and there's a very minor illumination on the outside, but we worked with the lighting consultant to make sure that it's focused on the actual property.
Nick, can you expand on the type of light fixture?
Yes, we didn't show the spec, but I have one printed out because I received this memorandum and thought you might ask. So we have, just for a visual aid, it's going to be a 16-foot kind of sleek, modern parking lot light.
I assume full cutoff and dark sky compliant.
Yes.
Do we know where the barracks are at the fire department? I assume they must have sleeping quarters. No. They don't have sleeping quarters?
I mean, they don't typically sleep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, of course, yeah.
Sleep at home.
So that's not gonna bother that.
Right. Yeah, so I bring this up just because something minor like this, a little bit of lead trespass onto another parking lot.
Right.
It's in your purview, you can waive that. But if that was a residential lot, we might want to look at that a little differently.
And if you're satisfying dark skies kinds of conditions, then that would be the question I would ask.
Yeah, me too.
When you're illuminating a big hunk of property like that, as a,
602, the adjacent property, there's also parking lot. Who owns that? I got just.
Used to be
So we were just talking about that before, where is that?
Yeah, that's what it's like.
I don't know if it's on
The property record says it's
Gallivan.
Yeah.
It's an auto body shop. That's what we saw on the GIS.
on GS, but
It's not. It's close though.
it hasn't been that in a while.
It's okay.
So,
I just like comment on the lighting to the acquisition site, or the lights are right on the same property line, they do have shielding from the trees, so it's just a mirrored screening and lighting.
That's right. They had answered the rest of them. Oh, I know what I did have a question on, just as you were discussing this. Is each one of these spots going to be allocated to a particular user? Such as, are they all going to be assumed to be full on a regular basis?
They will, we are assuming they'll be full on a regular basis, but they're not assigned to a particular individual.
Okay, but they're all assigned for use.
Yes.
So then that just brings up a quick question that I had about snow removal.
Okay.
You were talking about snow here, but I was thinking about that before you said it. If all of these need to be maintained and open, where would you be able to have snow here? Or push the snow? I was just thinking, maybe if you could create a little more room on the end, then you could avoid having some missing spots.
Yeah, and so we are providing 5 feet between the actual ends of the parking area and the timber frame guardrail. Yeah, it's a good point. I guess
Maybe you could create a little more space at the end and it's just, become a snow storage area.
Yeah, I think too, yeah, that's a good solution. We could also, the plow could definitely kind of come at an angle and push it over the guardrail if we tighten it in a little bit, kind of push between the parking spot and just through the corners.
Yeah, create a little space, but push back the guardrail because the plow will have problems when they hit the guardrail.
From your perspective, can the board go ahead and vote to approve this plan?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
On any unresolved issues?
Yeah, and anything else that somebody wants to discuss tonight.
Okay.
So, excuse
Um,
me, sorry, Ron, if I may
Yes.
speak to snow removal? May I
Say again,
speak to
please?
snow removal?
Yes, snow removal.
Yes, so this was one of the issues that was discussed when Pocketbook, DPW and Fire were discussing the allocation of the space, because a portion of that lot is in fact used by the city for snow removal. So with regard to any snow removal that needs to occur, there is in fact a location beyond the space that's currently allocated for parking that is specifically, there for putting snow in the event of a major snowfall. So that was actually part of the discussion with Pocketbook when this was negotiated with the mayor's office and the common council.
Okay, that's helpful. Who maintains this? Is the city gonna maintain this parking lot?
I'm sorry?
The parking lot that's being proposed, is the city
Well,
going to
no,
maintain?
the space that we're talking about is owned by the city.
Correct.
And we had initially given Pocketbook a lease during development. And then they applied for a long-term lease for parking. Once the Pocketbook was established. And in negotiation with DPW, who had snow removal requirements and space that they needed, and the fire department, which needed spaces for trainings, etc. The city and the mayor's office and Pocketbook identified a number of spaces that we could lease long-term to the Pocketbook. But the snow removal situation was very much a situation that was discussed in those meetings. So that was part of the discussion, because there's an area in the back of that lot where there are at least three different places in the city where in a major snowfall we store snow, and one of them is in the back end of that lot, which is not part of the space that Pocketbook has been allowed to lease for 5 years.
But Pocketbook has to maintain this themselves, so if it snows, they plow this area that they're leasing themselves.
That would, right, yes, that's a kind of a different issue, but I just wanted to mention the other factor, which was that the whole issue of when we have a major snow event, one of the issues that came into the discussion in identifying what spaces could be allocated to Pocketbook and how many spaces needed to be allocated to the fire department, part of that discussion was also making sure that we had sufficient space for snow storage in the event of a major storm. But yes, the Pocketbook would be responsible for applying their own lot. That is correct.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you,
thank
President
you.
Morrison.
Thank you.
So based on advice from our attorney and our engineer, we can take action on this application now, approve it, contingent on satisfying any additional.
Yeah, they have our comment, but.
Okay.
You don't need to vote to waive it. It says you may schedule a public hearing, so.
No, I don't mind making that a combined motion that,
For clarity of the record, why don't we just do a vote to waive?
well, let's combine it into a single action. So a motion to waive the public hearing and approve the application contingent on satisfying remaining engineering requirements is in order.
Second.
Who made the motion?
I need the motion.
Okay. Conker,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Whipple,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Over.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you, council.
Look around here.
We're gonna do it around the parking lot.
So item 6 under old business, 110 South Front Street, Basilica Hudson. Greetings, welcome.
Good evening. After the excitement of the housing project, the acre seven parking lot in the evening.
It's a nice soft landing.
Yeah, so, I have the updated site plan, but last time I brought the dozen copies, and you didn't want them because you all have it electronically, so I don't have any either to show this, either, but, I can give you one and you can.
Okay, we'll pass it around.
If you'd like, yeah, so we were at the last meeting, well, first of all, I'm Jeff Irish, I'm the owner of Hudson Solar Solutions, a contractor who's been contracted by the Silicon Hudson to build it. I am a licensed professional engineer in New York State, but I'm not the engineer of record on the project because I own the contracting company that's been contracted to build it. So other people are checking that work. We were at the last meeting. You confirmed it was paid to a seeker and voted that way to confirm it. And you also voted to waive the public hearing. So we did receive, after the last meeting, a letter from the company, Renia, with 16 questions. We submitted answers to 16 questions, and then about 14 this afternoon, we got alerted that they'd come up with a response to the question. So we didn't have time to update the site plan drawing and make the minor revisions that we think are now required, but the answers are pretty straightforward and pretty simple. I think we're pretty close at this point. So I'll just go through those, just go through the letter then, I guess, and some of the issues. Most of them, the comments, the response from the engineering company was that the comment has been addressed or resolved. There was a couple that deal with the easement and the need for an easement. There's a strip of land owned by a third party in between the two. But your engineers responded that they said our office would have no objections to having the final acceptance of all required easements or utility agreements being a condition of approval. That's kind of the direction we're hoping we can go. As long as with the other smaller comments I'll go through that have to do with the site plan itself. So there was one about lighting. This area is already a parking lot. It's on South Front Street. There are street lights along South Front Street. The lot to the south here is a huge parking lot. The Amtrak parks a lot of their vehicles there and trucks. There are huge lights already there. There are lights already around the Basilica Hudson building. So the area is pretty well lit. One of the questions was, will there be lighting in the carport? The answer is yes. I responded with some LED lighting. I have a picture of what it looks like. It's more like, pass it around. It's more like mood lighting. It's LED accent lighting. It's blue in that picture. I think there's a knob and you can make it probably other colors or something. But it's very low intensity. It's mainly for kind of an aesthetic effect. So
Are there other blue lights in the area that are being installed?
we don't think they're necessary given the existing area. So we're hoping that suffices as far as the lighting question. Next questions, there were some things about line work, wanting us to detail more accurately where pedestrians go. And the exits on South Front Street, so we can add that to the site plan when we update the site plan with the easement work as well. There was a question about topography. The last applicant mentioned the requirement for a 4% or minimum grade. This area is already flat. It's already a parking lot. If you walk out there, it's flat. There's no need for existing, for regrading what's already existing there. And then there was a question about screening. This is a very industrial area. This carport we think will be a major improvement for the aesthetics of anything within about 200 or 300 feet of it, kind of thing. So we're requesting that there not be a requirement for screening, given that there's an old factory across the road. There's the Amtrak parking lot. There's railway tracks and other things, so.
With the known developments that are occurring in the immediate area, South Bay and then ultimately the warehouse across the way, does that change the environment in any way that might cause you to want to reconsider that?
Isn't it totally on the other side? Like, you got CAD, that's whole zone, and then there's it's like the whole basilica is between that development, and then it's like close to the water, close to the rail.
Yeah, this is Basilica Hudson. The railway line goes this way and this way. And, the parking, this is an existing parking lot. It's 3 acres. It's all parking lot right now owned by the applicant. And the carport would go right here. So
You guys own that?
It's right with the shipping containers on.
Right.
It's replace the shipping containers with. Tony, do you want to introduce yourself?
Tony Stone, co-owner of Silicon Hudson. It will, yeah, there's a row of shipping containers right now, so the shipping containers might be moved, and then that's where the whole.
You say, one question, is there any other parking lot improvement beyond just the carport? Because currently, it's just, like you say, it's like, it's the, tool library.
Yes.
Container and a bunch of other containers there.
I
And
mean,
so,
obviously, the new route will go where we disturb it and then have that spread over the whole
Yeah,
lot.
that's-
And then signage to actually bring people to their place. So work on the Silicon Hudson signage to get people to find the right entrance. So, yeah.
So our engineer, Rich and Andrew both advised that, from their standpoint, they're ready for us to take action on the application. Pending a few of the engineering details that are currently underway. So, any discussion on that, or is there a motion to approve the application?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second? Sure, thank you.
Parker,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Woodhull,
yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes, it's a 2 parking lot night.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Unless somebody has some long story they can.
Yeah, we don't have Mount raised. We don't have Mount raised.
Right.
That's, okay.
They didn't
They
check.
were too late.
I'm sorry, what? Oh, they're not here. Okay.
Yeah, they submitted something brand new today.
Yeah, so one more note that, we did have a discussion in our last meeting about a, local law change that was not recommended to us, but sent to us for our opinion from the Common Council. The president of the Common Council has withdrawn that, action, so it's no longer on the agenda. So it's no longer a matter for us to be concerned about. So the draft letter I wrote is not going to need action.
But I just decided.
I don't have any information because I.
And I recommend we don't get too into it, so it's not agenda item, just.
Just announced. And with that, meeting is adjourned.
Motion to adjourn?
Sure, why not? I think it's within the authority of the chair to.
I accepted it already from.
Yeah.
No, my teacherly brain wanted to.
I'm sorry to praise.